Yes, folks, it's Tales from the Jails with John G. Sutton. I'm going to talk today about county lines. In the meantime, please do like and subscribe down there. It does help. And you can also see there's a link down there to my world international best-selling book. Right, okay. So I'm going to talk today about county lines. County lines are the drug dealing system that seems to operate out of major cities where they have young children and vulnerable people running the drugs for them. These are the major drug gangs. A lot of it comes out of Liverpool, Manchester, Birmingham, places like that. Mainly Liverpool and Manchester, from what I'm led to believe. But it's a technique that describes the organised criminal networks involved in exporting illegal drugs into one or more of the importing areas. Places like Scotland, they run up to Scotland from there, and they run up to the major outlying towns such as Kendal, Carlisle, Keswick, out there up to Newcastle, all the rest of it. And they're using children to do it, believe it or not, they go the back routes. I mean, this is something that the authorities are well aware of. They go the back routes on mopeds and electric bikes and motorbikes, and they take the drugs in the back of their bags and what have you. Of course, they're all getting stopped and getting locked up, and of course that just builds up more and more people in prison, because you certainly go to prison for smuggling drugs. Yeah. And once you get in prison, what do they do there? Well, continue to deal with the drugs, because they're representing the drug gangs inside, yeah. They exploit vulnerable adults as well, yeah, and to store the drugs and the money in their houses and in their equipment, in their motor vehicles, yeah. And the methods that they use are coercion, intimidation, violence. They use sexual assault on females, and they also go armed. And you've seen this in Liverpool recently, where there was a shooting in Liverpool. You see, if you cross the gangs, then they take retribution. I'll tell you a little story here. Back in my house, I had a garden was made. We had grass, but it was very on clay, you know. So every time it rained, you couldn't walk on it. I couldn't anyway, because you're slipping all over the place. So I decided to have it flagged. So I got this guy in to do work on a per day basis. You know, I think he was recovering from some illness or something. He wasn't working. So anyway, I gave him a few quid to come and put the tiles down in my back garden. And it took him about 2 weeks on and off every now and again. I'd go and pick him up, bring him in, do the work, take him back. It was a fairly friendly arrangement, you know, and he eventually got the job done. And after he'd finished, about 2 or 3 months after he'd finished, I got a phone call from his sister. She said, John, can you help my brother? He's in prison at the moment. He's in Hull prison. He's been charged with drug smuggling. Wow, you know, I mean, he wasn't doing anything like that when he was doing my back garden. All he was doing was laying the flags. So I said, all right, I'll go and visit him. So I got a visiting order from Hull prison to go and see this guy. And I went to see him in the prison there, and you can imagine they knew who I was when I arrived, you know. So I got seriously searched. I just took him a few books and handed them in to go into the library and what have you. And went in to see him, and I said, well, tell us what's going on. He said, listen, he said, I was on the boat, you know, somebody offered me £500 to go and collect a package from Amsterdam, I believe it was, and I got on the boat at Hull, and you know, the ferry, and went across to Amsterdam, and said I picked the package up, and they told me what to do. They gave me a script. Said in the event that you get stopped, you've got to tell the customs officers that somebody on the boat handed it to you and asked you to take it through customs, because they couldn't carry all the stuff they got in the. And he said, so I did that. I said, well, what happened then? They put you on remand. Yeah, he said, I'm on remand waiting trial. I said, do you intend to tell the judge that you've been doing this? Oh yeah, he said, that's the script. I said, listen, I've been around the prisons a long time and in the courts, and I've seen many people go up there with exactly the same story. And believe me, the judge is not going to listen to that for 1 minute. You tell the judge that, you're going to come away with 10 years. Said, that is a outright fiction. It's a complete lie, as you know. I said, so you better start telling them the truth. And he said, I cannot tell them anything else because the people I'm working for have told me that in the event that I don't stick to the script, they will kill me. And they'd threatened to cut his head off. And at the time, in the Greater Manchester area, they were finding bodies that had been decapitated and they never found their heads. That's what these drug gangs do. And they'd set him up. Listen, it's a trick. Believe me, listen to me, people. If you're invited by some drug gang to carry drugs over the water and given a script, tell them it's somebody who's handed it to you. You're a patsy. You're being set up. You are going to get stopped because they've told them exactly who you are. They've told them your name. They've given them a full description, and the customs officers are going to stop you and search you. They'll find what you've been given to bring over. I said, and you'll find that it's very little that you've been handed because you've been set up. And the real stuff that's coming over, they're letting that go through. I hate to say that there's corruption, folks, but there's corruption. And the poor bastards that are being set up and promised £500 to bring a packet from Amsterdam, they are the sacrifices. They're collateral damage. They're used by the drugs gangs to actually supply the customs and revenue and all the rest of it with to fulfil their arrest targets, because they've all got them. So the poor bastard that did my flagging, he actually ended up getting 8 years, but he's alive now and he's not in the prisons anymore. There is what's known as a drugs strategy in Britain. But the problem that they've got with this drug strategy is it doesn't really get inside the prisons, because the people that are running drugs, the people that are the drug dealers, and they rarely get them. Occasionally they do, but they're making more money selling drugs in prison than they're making selling them on the streets, because it's becoming increasingly available. And you will notice the reports of prisons saying that the supply of drugs is easier in the prisons than it is on the streets. That's because there's more money to be made. And once people get involved in prison in dealing with drugs, or they become indebted to the drug dealers, then when they come out, they might go in for some petty offence, minor theft or something like that. I knew a poor bastard once who was in prison for allowing himself to be carried in a stolen vehicle. He'd no idea that this car was stolen. One of his friends turned up at his house and said, and he was only about 17, said, "Come on, get in, we're going into Manchester." They drove into Manchester. As they went in, they got stopped and the car was stolen. This guy didn't know. He still went to prison. He only did about 3 or 4 months, but that ruined him for life. What good is that? What use is that to society? Anyway, that's it. That's what they're doing today, folks. County lines, highly operational, out from the big cities. They're using vulnerable people. They're using children to deal on the streets. 10-year-olds, you'll just dial up. So they'll give you some number using one of these burner phones, yeah? So they'll use it for a week and then ditch it, yeah? And the number will go around and you just dial it up and you'll meet some kid on a corner by a traffic lights and they'll just drop you a bag and you pay for that. Highly dangerous, completely crazy. Do not, under any circumstances, get involved with that. And if somebody offers you £500 to get a packet from Amsterdam, what you're really doing is you're going to get something like 8 years for smuggling drugs, because you're a patsy and you're being set up. And that's what's happening, folks. And I'm now... It's ding dong ding time, yeah? It's the song dinger. But I'm not going to sing you a song. I'm going to read you a poem. This is a poem that I wrote some time ago. It concerns my dear wife, or somebody's dear wife. And the poem is, Are We Bothering? Yeah? It's about sexual relations after a certain period of time. Are We Bothering by John G. Sutton. Sitting comfortably, folks. Good, then I will begin. I've been wedded over 40 years to the same woman, me wife. She calls... Sod him. I've been wedded over 40 years to the same woman, me wife. She calls me not fit to burn, but still is in me life. Her cooks me grub and washes clothes. She makes our home right gradely, but when it comes to making love, her answers allus aye. Maybe. These days, I get no leg over. She doesn't want to know. Her looks at me as if I'm daft when I reaches out me paw. And if I asked how we're bothering, answers allus no. I'm getting right frustrated living like a monk. And her, she sits and knits away, so I goes and gets right drunk. But to the night I get a fright. I just get one from pub. Her pulls me out flat hat off and gives me back a rub. By gum, the looks a proper mon, she whispers in me ear. I'm thinking, hey, hold on a bit, I'm fairly full at beer. But Mrs. was unstoppable. She soon had me upsteer. Gripped off me corduroy undies and never said a prayer. And that were the best scene to have had in nigh on 20 year. And what was it that stirred her up to make her love and want me? Instead of sitting knitting socks, she'd been watching the full Monty. Now every night I'm down the pub on blue movies she's a wallowing. Her knit one pearl too has been forgot, and her cry is, Are we bothering? Are we bothering? Tales from the Jails with John G. Sutton.